Welcome to Beyond the Break, a podcast where we dive deep into the stories behind today's entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers, and we uncover what it takes to build something that lasts. Let's get started. Beyond the Break.
Guy Pinkman, you ready for Beyond the Break?
You bet.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today for the podcast. We have Guy Pinkman with us, who's a senior relationship manager for Waycross Partners. We're thrilled to have you on the team. But Guy, today I'd love you to talk more about your history as a firefighter. So many of our clients are firefighters and in the defined benefit world. So I'd love to dig into that part of your history as well.
You bet. No problem.
What now, before you were a firefighter, tell us a little bit about your college time, because you also had an interesting path in the athletic world.
You know, things change quickly, especially in athletics. You know, one injury can take you out and change your entire trajectory. And, you know, I grew up all over the country, so it was one of those things. Athletics was the thing to be in, to assimilate to wherever you were at.
Every town you moved to.
Yeah, every time you moved to a new place, if you were a good athlete, you would assimilate way faster than if you weren't. And so I did that. But, you know, then growing up, I got better at the sports and had a lot of opportunities and took one of those opportunities. But at the same time, that was not going to be my path. Mm-hmm. So I ended up having a broken leg and not having scholarships anymore.
What sport were you?
I was in football.
Okay. Yeah.
I actually had scholarships in baseball and basketball as well. Wow. But football was where I wanted to go, I thought, until somebody broke my leg. Oh, wow. And, you know, I used to say I broke my leg, but that's not actually true. No. Somebody else had a lot to do with that. And because of that, I was very, very upset at the world, you know, as a young man, having an injury that you know you're done. You know,
what year was that?
That was in '86.
Were you like freshman?
Yeah, freshman, right away. Yeah, right off the bat.
Before the season started?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so you're just done. Everything you think is in your future is gone in a heartbeat, you know, and they're like, yeah, you could have drop foot, so this is just not for you. And so went to the University of Nebraska then, back over there and started out and didn't know what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. Kind of really just mad at everything and everybody. Everything just changed. But as I was there, you know, got settled in and started looking around. Well, a friend of mine was taking a test for the fire department. This was later on. I was pre-med, and then I said I don't want to be in school that long.
That's a lot of years.
Yeah, well, yeah. And so switched out of that to advertising and public relations.
Okay.
So I was going through that and working in the advertising public relations world, actually, as well as working at a health club and just trying, you know, paying for my own school now. Mm-hmm. You know, everything else was gone. So did that. And then at the end of my time, I think I was probably I was a senior, and one of my friends was taking the fire department test. He asked me if I would help him study.
Okay.
And I said, okay, I can do that. In the midst of doing that, he said, you got to take the test with me. You just can't, you know, do that. So I did, and I scored extremely well. Well, I was fortunate. A lot of things happened, and I was offered a position. I was actually offered a position at two places. One was an advertising and public relations firm, and 3 days later, I was offered a job on the fire department.
In Lincoln?
In Lincoln.
Nebraska.
Yeah, okay. In Lincoln, Nebraska. And so a lot of debate went into which one, and the fire department won out. And I was fortunate to be on that job for 31 years, almost 31 years, just a month short of 31 years.
That's something. Congratulations for serving the public for that many years. That is truly amazing. And you know, recently we were at lunch together with a client of ours who's a firefighter, and the two of you started telling stories that I don't think enough people realize what it really means to be a firefighter, what it means to your life. And you have children and adoptive children as well. Right. So, you know, you have a lot of people that you were responsible for. Right. Let's get into behind the scenes of a firefighter, because a lot of us see them, you know, driving the nice trucks, maybe, you know, saving some lives on occasion, but you work, what's the standard schedule?
Standard schedule is really 24 hours.
Okay.
It's a 24-hour shift. Most firefighters start around 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning and work until 6 or 7 o'clock the next morning. And depending on where you work, you may work that schedule one day on, one day off for a few days, and then you'll get a few days off in a row.
Okay.
Just to try and make up. But in essence, you're working an average of 56 hours a week.
Really?
So, and that's overnight. So if you're at a busy station, which I was at for about 15 years, that is, you're up every night.
Yeah. So what does bedtime look like?
Oh,
does
bedtime.
It exist?
Yeah. Bedtime is whenever you can get to sleep. The thing that we found was that the longer you've been on the job, the less likely you are to get good night's sleeps.
Okay.
And that's what we were talking about with our friend the other day. And now, even after being off for 3 years, I don't sleep through the night because you're just so used to being up and waking up that once you do wake up, it's a little more difficult to get back to sleep.
So you're actually hitting REM sleep at all? Like
Right.
What kind of recovery are you achieving?
Yeah, that's the problem. I think that, and they do know this now. They've done some more studies on it, and they see the effects of not hitting REM sleep, and where you will get yourself to a certain point and you will not allow yourself to go deep because you're anticipating a call. And the amount of time that most people have to get out of bed, get to the rig, and out the door is 2 minutes or less. Mm-hmm. Well, that is a very short amount of time to wake up,
dead asleep,
get dressed, get to the rig, make sure and get in and out the door in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the standard. So
what does that do to your heart? What does that do to the stressors in your body?
They do know that the alarm, the lights kicking on quickly, that when you have a call, that it does spike you a little bit at first. I'm going to tell you, at first. And some people are more mutant than others. Some people didn't have problems with it. But they know your heart rate goes incredibly fast right off the bat.
Okay.
I mean, most people don't jump out of bed and run to their car.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that spike can really, really hurt you in a long run, and they know that. So there's a lot of health issues that come along. That's one of the reasons why a lot of firefighters are kind of health conscious anymore. When I first started, it wasn't quite that way.
Yeah.
It didn't seem, the old adage of a rough and tumble firefighter walking out of a fire and smoking a cigarette was actually true. Mm-hmm. And then over time, you've seen firefighters get very much into the fitness craze. Yeah. We are, for the most part, required to work out like an hour a day when you're at work. So that helps. And I saw the change in what we were eating too. A lot of people are so nice. They bring cookies and cakes and stuff like that to the station. But that kind of was not necessarily the best thing to eat all the time. No. So when we would get somebody that would bring like a plate of fresh fruit, everybody's like, "Oh man," and it would be gone. Mm-hmm. So that's another change, but it is very difficult on your body, and physically it is as well. When you think about it, most people don't go work out as hard as they possibly can for 30 minutes. Now add on 60 pounds to your body, and let's up your temperature to 102. That is during a fire, your internal temperature is probably going to go up to 102 or higher. Yeah. Because you're in a snowsuit, really. You're in that firefighting suit and you have an air tank on. And some air tanks don't allow to breathe quite like breathing right now. Mm-hmm. They may restrict a little bit. And because of that, all of those stressors really, really can put you at risk later on for other things too.
So all this is in a fire environment, and you haven't had time to prep and be fully hydrated always. Like, like if you're going in on a sauna or going to work out, you fully hydrate. But this happens in the middle of the night.
This can happen in the middle of the night. Absolutely. And a lot of times they do. And so then you have to have the mental clarity as well. Mm-hmm. So, but the hydration thing is big. We would always try and teach that a little bit more, especially when it's hot, that you need to be ahead of that hydration, not behind it. But if you are running your second tank at a fire and it's 100 degrees outside and the humidity's high, there was one story. I was trying to help a firefighter on the job lose weight. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of a fitness person, still am. And so we would weigh in the mornings. And it happened to be a July 4th.
Oh,
and July 4ths are terrible. More fires. You're just going to have it. Too many people are being, pyrotechnics, and they shouldn't be. But we weighed in that morning. We had a big fire. And 2-3 alarm fire, downtown, old house. In that house, it was super hot, just incredibly hot. And at one point, I think I was on my second tank, and everybody out there will say you should never go to the third tank. But I believe I was probably on my third tank. And I came out, and I'll tell you what, I was exhausted. When I got done, I know I couldn't even take my own coat off.
Oh my gosh.
So they pulled the coat off and dumped water over the top of us. We got back to the station, and I thought, you know what? I wonder how much weight I've lost. And I probably at the time I was weighing about 210. And I remember walking into the same scale and getting on the scale, and I lost 12 pounds.
In one day?
In 6 hours.
Oh, my gosh. Think of that, what that does to your body.
Oh, exactly.
That's just...
So, and there's no way to kind of catch up on that. It's going to take you a long time to catch up on that. So that's just one. And firefighters around the country have this issue all the time. We're used, you say you're used to it, but it's really bad on your body. You bet.
So besides the firefighting aspect, there's the paramedic side.
Oh my, yeah.
What's the normal ratio in Lincoln, for example, of how many calls are health-related versus fire?
Yeah, I was actually the first certified paramedic on Lincoln Fire.
Oh, wow.
So I was the first one to get certified and be out running calls for the fire department, and that was a long time ago. Now we hired other people, other fire or paramedics that came in after I was that had more time on being a paramedic. But as far as when we started, that was what happened. 80% of the calls are EMS calls.
Okay.
Right around there. 75 to 80% are EMS calls. And everybody always asks that question, why is there a fire engine and an ambulance? It's a waste of money and all this other stuff. Well,
so you're talking about when someone has a heart attack.
Right.
A paramedic pulls up, but then this very large water truck follows.
Yes, a fire engine shows up.
Please, I do not know.
That is a misconception because there aren't as many ambulances as there are fire engines. So it's all about time. And if you talk to any cardiologist, they're going to say time is muscle. So anytime there's a massive problem, the longer the time goes before you can get an intervention, the more muscle you're damaging.
Okay.
So if a fire engine is 4 minutes away because there's more of them, but the ambulance is 8 minutes away, which one do you want to get to you?
Whoever can get there.
Whoever can get there faster. And that is really the essence of it. Now, there's probably a medic or two on that engine, and there's a medic or two on that ambulance.
Okay.
But those are the ones that are going to come in. The EMTs will do their stuff as well. The paramedics are the ones that can do the advanced life support stuff.
Okay.
And that really does make a difference, huge difference, actually. So in Lincoln, I would say right now I believe you probably have 85 paramedics out of the 450 fire, together. So you have some contingents of paramedics versus firefighters. The problem is not everybody is on that medic unit, and there's not as many medic units. But you can sure get tired too because you're going to run more calls on that ambulance than you're going to run on the engine.
Oh, okay. You're bouncing around.
You're right. You got to figure you only have, how many. If I have 8 engines and I have 4 medic units and we're all running the same, they're running twice as many calls.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, you can really burn the candle at both ends if you're on the medic unit.
So besides the glamour of delivering a baby, what is like one of the more extreme medical interventions you've had to deal with?
Oh my, extreme. Well, needle decompression of the chest is always one where you have to stick a needle. You have to stick a needle in somebody's chest to allow the air to escape because they are having a buildup of air inside your cavity, and there's no escape. So you'll have a hole in between your lung sac or your lung and the sac that it holds. Okay, and that air will squeeze out and it pushes on the lung, so it'll start collapsing your lung.
Oh, that's how you get collapsed lungs?
Right. Yes. Now, there is one that is more aggravated than another. Just a collapsed lung might not be as bad as these, where I have to actually put a needle in your chest to allow that air out. But in certain situations in traumatic injuries, you can have that. And there's a lot of signs and symptoms that show us you don't have lung sounds on that side. A late sign is actually you have tracheal deviation, so you can actually see their trachea push over because there's so much pressure.
Really?
It's literally pushing it over. Yeah, and then you have to needle decompress the chest. And that's, done that numerous times.
So do you have full autonomy in the field? Like you don't call into the hospitals for...
It depends on where you're at. Everybody has different rules, but there are standing medical orders, and then you just do what you need to do. If you have to go over and above, or your medical director says, okay, you can go this far, but once you go past, you got to call me and ask me if it's okay. And then there are a lot of times where you'll have things that just aren't working in the field, or medicines, and you've tried everything and there's something else you want to do. You'll call the base hospital and talk to a physician and say, this is where I'm at, this is what I want to do, and they'll say yes or no or whatever, and then you go with that. So no, that happens.
I imagine you see a lot of car accidents and motorcycles.
Oh yeah, a lot of traumatic injuries. So you see a lot of things that nobody wants to see. And that's the other part of this, is the mental aspect of what we do. You see a lot of things you can't unsee. And so you have those images, and unfortunately there's a lot of those over the years. If you're on a busy unit and you get to see a lot of bad things, they're just always going to be there.
Do they give you much help with that nowadays? I would hope more than in the past.
I was actually the counselor for Lincoln for quite a few years. And like 20 or over 20.
Oh, good. So this has been a topic for them.
Yeah, it is. And we used to do it in a way, and it's been going on for a long time. It's critical incident stress debriefings is what they call that. And you'll take everybody in and talk about the situation and such. And it used to be, it was a very formalized process, and we would have maybe an outside counselor come in. And that's really gone to the wayside. It's still a formal process. Certain things trigger those, but we found out that firefighters don't like talking to outside counselors.
Oh, really?
About this
that's
stuff.
Interesting.
And so we've kind of transitioned to where the counselors on the department are the ones that are really doing most of that work.
That's a great idea.
Because you trust. You know what I've seen. You understand what I do. So they've switched that around, and it's no longer necessarily the critical incident stress debriefing, but they'll do what's called a diffusing too, and where you just talk it over. And then you can come back if the counselor or the internal resource officer thinks there's an issue, you can go further with it. But you're kind of watching out for each other a lot on that as well. But no, there's some really, really ugly things out there. And unfortunately, you even have firefighter suicides. You have firefighter deaths, and those are the worst and the hardest to deal with, to be honest with you.
I mean, you think of all that. You mentioned earlier physical toll on your body, and then the mental aspect. It's a very diverse job, to say the least.
It really is. And then dealing with people as well, because you see the worst of humanity. And that can make you jaded. It really can. It can, and you don't trust people, and and police officers are very similar in certain aspects, different in others. But we actually have a family on the fire department too, because you live together. Every 24 hours you're together, and you can't be maybe more than 100 feet away from each other. So you better get the right crew, or you're not going to like each other.
So what happens if you go on a call where there is a safety concern? Like you're in just a bad area. Do you go in with police support, or
if you're smart,
if there's a shooting or something?
If you're smart, it depends. It really does depend on things. So if you know there's active shooters or active shooting going on, you're going to wait for the police to get there. They're the ones that are going to be able to protect you if something happens, or hopefully they can. But there are times where you will roll in and it's just the way it is. You may have somebody on a porch that's been shot a whole bunch of times, and you're not really sure, but you're standing there You're not, typically people are going to go check on that.
Oh my gosh.
So it can get very, very hairy very quickly. But you have to, there's a situational awareness that some people have that are better than others.
Sure.
But you have to really decide what things are worth. And is this worth me risking my life? Risk a little, get a little, sometimes. Yeah. And so am I going to, risk a little is not my life, typically.
Did you ever get in a situation where you were in danger from a third party?
Oh, yes. Numerous times. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what would be a scenario?
Well, a scenario on that would be you're in a front yard or something and there's been a shooting and you're working on a patient and then suddenly there's more shooting going on.
Oh, my gosh.
It wasn't over. Yeah. Or somebody came back to that scene.
That's what I was
that is very typical. But or not typical, but that can happen. I would say, just like police officers, the most dangerous scenes are the domestic disturbances. And what will happen a lot is a patient will talk a person into letting them call 911 for the fire department.
Okay.
But they would never let them call for the police department.
But they don't realize that's going to come with it. Right?
Sometimes it does. Hopefully it does. But at times you'll get there and you don't realize that it's a domestic. Okay. And that's where that situational awareness kicks in. And you may have bad actors in that room. And you have to be really, really careful. Oh, and I have seen the violence really escalate probably in the last 10, 12 years of my career. I saw the violence get more and more and more against firefighters and things. Yeah.
Think that you're there to help.
Right.
And you have no way to protect yourself.
Yeah, the bags are heavy and you got to know what you're doing, but you also don't want to be a victim. Yeah. You have to be careful. Yeah.
So with all that, we are obviously in the pension management business. Mm-hmm. So we talk to a lot of our clients about the pension funds. So how did that, relate to you as a firefighter? Did it make you feel better about the longevity? Because, I would think life expectancy might be different than the general population.
Oh, yes, it definitely is. And I've been doing the pension world with the Lincoln Police and Fire for 17 years now, actually. So definitely, and seeing firefighters die, line of duty deaths and such, and having to go out and talk to their family and hand a pension check, to them and explain what's going to happen is difficult, very difficult. But it is one of those things that it's there for them.
So what does that benefit look like to an active duty firefighter? Yeah. If they are in the line of duty?
Well, it depends on your city or your municipality. But if you were to die in a fire, and the International Association of Firefighters will jump in as well and they'll give out money as well, depending if it's in a fire or it's on duty. It's different than it's just line of duty, because line of duty can mean there's several cancers that are considered line of duty. The 911 lung problems in New York City is considered line of duty. There's a lot of line of duty death things, but in a fire or on a call is completely different. And then there's more avenues to get resources. And like even having your children, their education's taken care of and things like that. Okay. And I know there's a lot of organizations around the country that are set up a lot by firefighters or fire departments or such to help out if those things happen as well. But if that does happen, let's say in the case of Lincoln, we'll come in and they can get the checks from the Firefighter Benevolent Association. We'll give them a check. International may give them a check right off the bat just to take care of situations that are going to happen right there. Yeah. But then we'll set, as far as the pension goes, they'll start getting that right away as well. Okay. We can process that and get that quickly through. But it is crucial. Yeah. But it obviously doesn't make up for the loss. No. So that's the one thing. But having something there is great. Is amazing. Now, the one thing that, you and I've talked about this, and I talked with the gentleman the other day, a lot of people don't understand that firefighters and police officers around the country, for the most part, don't get or didn't get Social Security. And the
Yeah,
cities
talk about that, because that's a new legal development
Right.
in the last year or so.
Yeah, when the Retirement 2.0 came through about a year and a half ago, that allowed firefighters to actually get a Social Security now that weren't eligible before, or
From
it was
their
other job, from
Yeah.
another job, not from the fire department, but from another job. And because they were basically saying you already have a defined benefit plan. But a lot of firefighters and police officers have two jobs.
Yeah.
Even though we work 56 hours a week, we may work another 30 hours a week somewhere else. And we were being kind of discriminated against a little bit on that, and they finally took that off the books.
Because you were actually, correct me if I'm wrong, you were paying in out of your paycheck into Social Security.
Right.
But not
But you're not,
eligible
you're not going to be able to get anything out of it.
That made no sense.
Yeah.
It seemed like a very obvious thing to take care of.
Right.
But it's taken 40 years.
It's taken a long
since
time to get
it was
that changed.
put in.
Exactly.
All right.
So that's been taken care of a little bit. But knowing that you have something there is very, very nice. And I mean, I've dealt with giving away the money when somebody didn't have any beneficiaries.
Yeah.
And they would have it in their will, and we would take care of that and do their wishes to give all that money away.
Yeah.
It was their money. They don't obviously get a paycheck every month because they're gone, but the money that they did have in there, they could give away.
Yeah. And a lot of what you talked about would lead me to say, what is the average career length, and how old could you be?
Oh man. Well, so there's a regular mortality table for general population, and then there's actually a mortality table for public safety officers.
Okay.
And they know that if you stay on the job after the age of 55, that mortality starts coming together.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And it actually touches at the age like 64 and a half.
So you're at
you're not doing yourself any favors by staying after that. Or your body, I guess, is telling us that because of the abuse that you've done, maybe the mental aspect, the physical aspect for sure, and your heart and everything else. So it's not necessarily good to stay after that time. And I think everybody understands that. So there are some retirement processes out there that try to get firefighters, police officers to retire early.
Yeah.
The problem sometimes is the medical care was not, if I retire at age 55, I'm not really eligible for, Medicare, Medicaid until I'm 65.
Sure.
So I have a 10-year gap in there. So we've tried to alleviate that in certain ways, but it's sometimes hard or impossible.
Yeah, because you realize, I feel like there's sometimes people look at it like, oh, look how young they are while retired. Well, we just talked about those 30 years of work is a beating.
Yes.
And it's hard to do it beyond 55, where those of us who have office jobs, we can keep working till 65 without worrying about it, So you need something, and that's where the pension comes in, right?
Right.
So if you retire at 55, you can begin drawing that check.
You can.
Okay, so
you can begin drawing your pension check at that time.
Okay.
So that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference for people.
So tell me about your role on the board then with the pension fund as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, chair of the board in Lincoln, we're $340 million pension plan.
Mm-hmm.
We, have assets across all allocations. We have a consultant that we work with very closely. I've been doing this for a long time, as you know, and I'm very active in the space to make sure that we're doing it the right way. The biggest thing is understanding the end result.
Mm-hmm.
And as we just said, somebody needs that check.
Sure.
It may be an orphan. It may be a widow or a widower. Someone needs that check. They're going to rely on that. And for us to do it the right way, to make sure that we're funded, to make sure that we can always have that paycheck for them is the ultimate goal. And keeping that in mind is paramount. The other part of that is we are long-term. This is not going away. Firefighting is not going to be taken over by AI. It's just not going to happen. You're still going to have to put on that suit and go into a fire. It's just going to be the way it is. And so because of that, we know that in 20, 30 years, there's still going to be firefighters.
Sure.
And people are going to be retiring from that. So we have to look long term and make sure that our goals are set that way.
Yeah.
And not necessarily worry about the noise of what's going on today or yesterday, and just to plod along to make sure we get where we need to go.
How have those benefits that we just talked about, when you started, was an old timer back then? Were they getting pensions at the young age, or were they kind of cast astray?
No, they were getting pensions. I wouldn't say a young age, that's for sure. Some of these, when I first started, we didn't have a drop program, which is a deferred retirement option program, which means I am actually effectively retired on the job. I'm not going to get a raise. I'm not going to get all those things, but I can work for a certain amount of time, and we take that money and set it aside that would be coming to me, and then invest it. Okay. So after that 5 years, I can have that money as well. I get my pension, and I also get this little account that was set up. But that actually gives the city I know when these people are going to retire. They're not going to they have to retire on this day or before. And so everybody understands that, so you can plan for new hires. Now, the thing is a new hire doesn't make as much as, the guy that's been on the job for 30 years. So they understand that, the economics of that. So they can plan a little bit better. But it's, at the same time, you have to, the older guys stayed too long, I think. I talked to them, even when I got in the fire department, I would explain to them, you're working for, if you were going to get, let's say 70% of your highest paycheck. If you stay past that date, you're really working for 30%.
Oh, okay.
You're not working, because if you're at home or out fishing or whatever you want to do, you're getting 70%.
Yeah.
So you're really only working for 30%. And I had some of the old guys just argue with me. And it's like,
they loved it.
Well, the difference was, and it still happens today, is people put that as their whole persona. Mm-hmm. And I always cautioned all the people I would counsel and such, because if that is what you are, what are you when you retire?
Yeah.
And that is a very, very hard thing to do. And you have a lot of people that don't know how to transition that.
Well, think of it. You just talked earlier, the 24-hour shifts. You've got this life that it's your life.
It is.
It's a big chunk of it. Right. So talking about the work shifts, have you ever saved anybody off of duty?
Yes.
Okay. How often does that pop up?
Oh, man. I'm the bad penny.
Oh, really?
Oh, man. Yes. I'm
so
the bad
just stumble
penny.
Upon
I have come on too many things. And I mean, if anybody looks me up, they'll see several.
All right.
But I'll give you.
Are you authorized to help?
I can. Yeah.
Like a Good Samaritan?
Yeah, there's good Samaritan laws and such like that. But I was on the job too, so I still, I was paramedic and everything else, so still certified on all. But there were several. The one that's the big one that always comes up is I had my son had a birthday party, or it wasn't his birthday, but his best friend had a birthday party. Mm-hmm. And since this is in the news and everything else, I can tell, and I'm off the job. And it was a swimming pool birthday party, and my son was 8. And a little girl drowned at that birthday party. And I was there in the pool area, and someone screamed my name, and it wasn't a nice way to scream my name, so I knew something was bad. Get the little girl out of the pool, ended up doing CPR. I'm literally talking on the phone to dispatch, seeing who's coming, telling them what's going on, trying to figure out how long she'd been under the water based on certain things I was doing with the CPR. But at one point I looked up and all the little kids are there. There's 30 kids.
They're watching this.
And then some of them were watching. And and even as a firefighter, we understand if you want something done, you point to one person and say, you do this. Mm-hmm. And when I was getting this, I was in the middle of doing a lot of stuff. No one helped me do CPR or anything. And I said, get all the kids out of here. And when I looked up, even my son was standing. And so I realized I had messed up.
Yeah.
So I looked at one of the older ladies and I said, you get all these kids out of here. And then they were gone. And then it was, and then the fire department showed up. I knew every one of them. In fact, I trained a lot of them.
Sure.
So that, and we got her back.
Okay.
And she has no problems whatsoever. I actually never was spoken to by the family, which was interesting. But at the same time, I understand they never want to go back and relive that.
Sure.
So why would
Very
you want
traumatic.
to? Yeah, I'm just glad. I'm glad their daughter is fine. But it was interesting because the people were going to cancel the party, and I said, "No, you're not going to cancel the party." And I went into
After
the
drawing?
yeah.
Oh.
Well, the reason why is I went into the counseling mode of okay, if we cancel this party right now, every one of these little kids is going to think this is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But if we continue the party, let's not maybe swim, but let's continue the party. They're going to go, something really weird happened at so and so's birthday.
Yeah, but it wasn't as big.
Right.
Okay, that's smart.
And so we only had one older child that was being a problem. I had a little conversation with him, and then he was good. And then on the way home, though, I thought, I saw Levi looking at me. I better ask him if he had any questions. Yeah, my son, if he had any questions about that. And it, as only a little kid can do, they just break it down to the nitty gritty. And I said, so you got questions about what you saw back there? Yeah. Why were you kissing that little girl?
Oh, man.
And I said, oh, my, because he saw me giving her mouth to mouth. And I'm like, I wasn't kissing her, buddy. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the end of his questions. He had no other
Good
questions.
thing he wasn't too traumatized.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
amazing to save a person's life. There's, it's a rare gift you have, and a lot of you first responders have been able to do such great work, and I thank you for it. It's amazing. And we're fortunate in our business to work for all these people, all the first responders, the police, the fire, the city employees. So I'm glad you're able to share some stories today, Guy, and I think it's important for people to know behind the scenes. It's not just the firefighter showing up at a birthday party or a 4th of July parade, right?
No, there's a lot to it, and a lot of training, and a lot of education, and a lot of sweat and tears too.
Yeah.
So you bet.
That's something. Well, thanks for coming on, and we appreciate everything you're doing. And
Thank you.
Now your life's boring, just flying on planes and sitting at a desk?
No, I still got too much going on, and still trying to keep in shape. I think if I stop, my body will just fall apart.
No, that's right. Next time we'll talk about cold plunge and sauna.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, let's do that.
All right, Guy Pinkman, thanks so much for coming on Beyond the Break. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Break. If this conversation brought you value, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. We've got more real stories, sharp insights, and powerful turning points coming your way. See you next time.